Communism's great if everybody's all in, but the number one incentive for communism is that you do nothing, because whether you do a lot or whether you do nothing, you get the same reward as everybody else. So who's incentivized to work? Good kings have good kingdoms, and that's probably what is happening in Dubai, at least from my observation, is that is very well planned. They have a lot of resources and everyone is prospering. The reason why capitalism works is because it is trillions of micro decisions that have to be made by human beings all the time, constantly, all day long, every day. For NATO, every country is supposed to be paying a certain percentage of their GDP. For years and years and years, no one made them pay. The first person that made them pay was Donald Trump. He actually more than paid for that wall. He had 38,000 troops provided by Mexico guarding the border and had the lowest rate of illegal and crossings, human trafficking, drugs coming in. You have to have a border to have a country. More people in slavery now in the world than back when slavery was legal. It's unbelievable. And that's also one of the reasons why the southern border is just completely open. It's to facilitate that trade. And there's hundreds of thousands of children unaccompanied that are just coming across the border. Women are getting raped. The children are getting raped. They're getting beaten. They're dying. And all because, for some reason, we don't have the will in this country to secure that border and make it something to where that's eliminated. It was eliminated under Trump. It's not under Biden. And that should tell you everything you need to know about whatever political party you need to vote for, at least in this upcoming election, because that is something that should be intolerable, is children in slavery. It is modern slavery, and it exists. It exists right now. And we shouldn't have them in the sex trade, and we shouldn't have them in the called artisanal mining, I think is the term of it. Or like artisanal, like artisanal bread, or, like, oh, it sounds so pleasant. No, what it means is they're mining by hand. They're digging up and these toxic lithium, terrible for you, and they're doing it all by hand for nothing because they're slaves and trying to improve their condition. It's another reason why I don't think we should be encouraging electric cars, because with electric cars, you've got a very limited amount of these materials, and you're having children, slave labor, dig them up. It's bad enough that we're using them for things like phones. So we're going to have a little bit in each phone. But to have the size of 2 of these tables of brick to run your car, which is more efficient on gasoline, I mean, all electricity is made, it's either nuclear or coal in the United States, or they're saying this wind power. Wind power is a net loss. The only reason it exists is because we supplement it. It's not a profitable thing. It generates less than it costs to make the wind power because of the materials and all the manufacturing process, which is all run by oil and gas. And oil and gas, as a coefficient of efficiency, oil and gas is tremendously more efficient than to burn coal. There's a loss. It's already in a compacted form. There's a loss there. And then the transmission, there's a loss. The charging of the battery, there's a loss. From the battery to the car, there's a loss. It's not as an efficient process. Overall, we're using much more energy, much more resources, but it sounds good. And we're fooling ourselves. It's only to the foolish and only to the young of people that it just sounds good to. And sounds good to have an electric car. We shouldn't be doing it. You should have a good fuel-efficient automobile that runs on gasoline. And if not, something like hydrogen or something, those type of technologies, or something that would run on water or something like that, which I have seen and heard rumors that these things exist but are being buried for I don't know what reason. It doesn't seem logical that would happen, but maybe. And I'd like to see a lot more about that, and I'd like to explore a lot more about those type of technologies to see what it is. But to use high-energy batteries and lithium in cars and to mandate that, I think is just foolish. Terribly toxic and hazardous. Have you ever seen a Tesla burning up on the side of the road? They can't put the fires out, and it's blowing fumes of toxic smoke in it. I mean, I think if you look at the full overall toxicity picture of electric cars versus gasoline cars, I don't think there's any kind of comparison. And look at the one meme. There's the grown men, a few of them who are out on and pulling oil out of the ground, which is, by the way, the second most abundant liquid on the planet Earth versus children who are hand mining, covered in dirt and living in misery to mine this lithium. It's terrible. It shouldn't be happening. It's bad enough we have to do it for computers and phones. And by the way, when we use up all this great, wonderful natural resource, which if we pulled all of the natural resources of that off the entire planet, still not enough to just run all of the cars in the United States. It's just not. And California is mandating it. So stupid, foolish, idiots in their legislature. And idiots are voting those idiots into the legislature, unfortunately. Because that's also one of the things that happens when you have a very poor education system, that you're not raising critical thinkers or an educated population. And you've got nothing but propaganda in the media that's being fed to them and by tech companies and things like that. It's just absolutely foolish. We need to be much more wise about our resources. And we need it in computers and phones. Well, when we use it all through car batteries that are now, are they being recycled or not? Because I saw one documentary that says they are absolutely not. And so we're going to use up all that natural resource that we need for computers and phones, and we're using it in car batteries. History is going to judge us as the absolute morons that we are for using these for cars. And now they want to have it to make trucks and big, heavy machinery. It's absurd. It's fantasy land. You can't make decisions for utopia when you don't live in actual utopia. And there's no such thing as utopia, and there never will be. We're majorly blessed in this country to live in the best time, one of the best countries that's ever been created. Used to be the best. I'm not so sure anymore. Dubai looks pretty amazing. A lot of countries around the world are doing really, really well. And a lot of that is at our expense as the American taxpayer, because we've been funding the world's defense all over the world. And we're in 35 now, probably, $1 trillion worth of debt. And the spending seems never ending. It's unsustainable. They have to stop this. They have to fix it because they're stealing all of our futures. You know, we would be such a wealthy country if we had never done any of that stuff. For NATO, every country is supposed to be paying a certain percentage of their GDP. For years and years and years, no one made them pay. The first person that made them pay was Donald Trump. And he brought in billions. And he brought in billions from China. And he brought in billions from Mexico. He actually more than paid for that wall. He had 38,000 troops provided by Mexico guarding the border and had the lowest rate of illegal and crossings, human trafficking, drugs coming in. And now, you know, when you drive to, I've driven through Oklahoma a lot. In Oklahoma, along all the highways, there's these giant billboards that say illicit drugs, legal drugs, because so many people are dying from fentanyl. More than 100,000 people have died from fentanyl. That's 30 Twin Towers falling down. There was 3,500, give or take, 3,600. Was it 3,605 off of memory, something like that? Or 3,501, something in 9/11 that died in Twin Towers. We went to war over it, and it was this tragedy, the United States. 30 times more people than that have died from fentanyl, yet we don't even close the border. How stupid is that? It's just absolutely ridiculous. You have to have a border to have a country, and we have to have laws that are reasonable. And in San Francisco, they're just letting people walk in, steal something, and walk out. They're locking up almost everything in every store. They passed a law that an employee can't even confront a thief. You can steal up to $800 and you won't get prosecuted for it. Why do people pay for anything? There's your socialism, and guess what? Downtown San Francisco has turned into a ghost town. Almost all the businesses are leaving. I forget who said this, but that when you realize that you can vote yourself other people's money, that's the beginning of the demise of democracy and the demise of society. There was a really good cartoon about it, about three brothers, where one brother worked his ass off and became wealthy, and then the other two just didn't. But they all got a vote, and the two that didn't voted that the other one would pay for everything for them, and that they would just then take everything from them. And then they all got equal reward. Well, then why would this guy who worked 10 times more than these two combined and was that effective, why would he continue to do that work? When I was in law school, I used to get teamed up with another waiter who was really lazy, and I was doing all the work. And after a while, I refused to work with him because I was willing to work my ass off and work really hard, as you may know about me. But he was just lazy and would just let me do everything. Everything. So now I'm working twice as hard and he's taking half my money. And it came to a point where I refused to do that. Communism's great if everybody's all in. But the number one incentive for communism is that you do nothing. Because whether you do a lot or whether you do nothing, you get the same reward as everybody else. So who's incentivized to work? I only want to work harder if I get some benefit from it. Why would I work twice as much if I don't get twice as much money? It's human nature. Communism sort of works in a family unit. That's it. And a family unit has defined roles based on competence. A dad, a mom, and then the kids. And it's based on capability. And the kids, they have no way to earn it. They have to be given something from the parents. Well, the problem is that when you grow up as kids in that little micro communism and you don't understand how this unit then has to interact with all these other families, that's where the democracy starts to come in. And that's where larger type of rule needs to come in. And I'm not advocating for kingdoms, but good kings have good kingdoms. And that's probably what is happening in Dubai, at least for my observation, is that is very well planned. They have a lot of resources and everyone is prospering, but they're not micromanaging every little detail like most communisms want to do. They're going to buy this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, that's it. And they make all those decisions. The reason why capitalism works is because it is trillions of micro decisions that have to be made by human beings all the time, constantly, all day long, every day, in every purchasing decision that you make and every selling decision. And it's a mutual exchange of somebody says, I have this money, I want this thing or service more than I want this money. And they find somebody that says, I want some money, I'm willing to trade this thing or this service for that money. They both come together. It's a benefit over and over and over and over and over again for everything that you've ever bought and everything that you've ever sold, whether it's you selling your labor or selling products or trading. And it doesn't necessarily have to be money. Money is just a medium of exchange for the product or service that's sold, because it's hard to say, well, I've got this remote control and then I've got this phone. And so how many remote controls do I need for the phone to exchange for the phone? Well, what we do is we use a substitute called money. And we say, all right, the remote controls worth $10 and the phone's worth 1,000. And so it takes 100 remote controls to equal the phone. And then you're like, well, I don't want to have 100 remotes. I need one remote, and then these are 99 other remotes. So you don't want to have to just pure barter. So money is just a placeholder. Money represents an exchange of energy because somebody exchanged some kind of energy for it, whether it was the energy to create the phone that was sold, or whether it's the labor that is sold, or the labor that is performed to create the phone that was then sold. And then it can be easily distributed. And money is just a reservoir. That's why they call it a note. It's a note that it refers to, makes note of how much value was exchanged for whatever particular transaction it was. It's just a placeholder. It represents stored up energy. And so the better that you store up your energy and organize your energy, then the better and the more that you can do in the world. All right. Well, you may have some questions in the comments, so we'll see you on the next episode. This is the Lawyer Dana Show.